She experienced a severe public embarrassment directly during the most prestigious baseball tournament for the elite, where each swing featured a $1 million sponsor logo. Claire entered the field wearing a worn tee, holding a used wooden bat, and with her hair simply tied back. How did the staff get approval to use equipment? A wealthy player scoffed. She's here to collect foul balls, not participate. But moments later, Claire's first home run hushed the entire stadium and made her critics anxious. The Spring Invitational Women's Baseball Tournament at Rosebridge Park was a symbol of affluence, its green field bordered by stands covered in corporate advertisements, its atmosphere filled with the aroma of new leather gloves and Chanel No. 5. This exclusive event, a venue for heiresses, female CEOs, and semi-pro athletes, emphasized prestige more than competition. Custom-engraved Louisville Sluggers shone, limited edition Nike cleats sparkled, and camera drones whirred for social media visibility. The dugouts, furnished with velvet benches, were designated for the privileged, their sapphire wristbands scanned by staff in tailored blazers. Beyond the field, a VIP pavilion stood, its glass walls reflecting the influence of those within. Claire Wren entered the field, her simple white t-shirt tucked into standard joggers, her canvas sneakers showing wear from years of use, her high ponytail moving with her. At 27, raised in a small Ohio town, she had developed her swing in local lots while working as a part-time coach, her talent natural but undeveloped until she encountered Julian Wren, the billionaire who had transformed professional baseball. She carried a used bat with a faded price tag, her only tool in a setting of immense wealth. The grandstand stairs felt sharp, a murmur suggesting an impending shift. Claire's presence disrupted the tournament's carefully constructed image. Her bat seemed out of place in this exclusive environment. A semi-pro player, Lauren Holt, rested against the dugout, her $3,000 Prada uniform catching the light. "This is a baseball tournament, not a public fitness class," she commented, her voice carrying enough to draw attention. A tech heiress, dressed in a $2,000 Under Armour kit, laughed quietly, elbowing her teammate. "Perhaps she is lost?" The kids' training camp was located out back. Laughter echoed from the grandstand, spectators attempting to hide smiles with manicured hands. Claire remained still, her hazel eyes focused, her bat resting on her shoulder. She had come to play for Julian, the man whose league she had quietly helped fund. The audience's displeasure arose, their hearts tightening at the seemingly callous actions of these gatekeepers, their contempt a sharp contrast to Claire's quiet composure. The taunting grew more intense, a spiteful sound led by the tournament's most prominent figures. Whitney Crane, the event's current social icon and daughter of a sports media executive, stepped forward, her personalized Nike jersey gleaming, her blonde hair neatly styled and her expression scornful. At 25, having grown up in Manhattan's luxurious apartments, she was known for belittling those new to the scene. She looked at Claire's athletic pants and laughed. "That bat looks like it came from a second-hand store," she remarked, her voice cutting and cruel. The players roared, their laughter echoing off the grandstands. Whitney tossed her bob, her jasmine-scented perfume wafting, a scent Claire knew Julian disliked. Claire's fingers tightened on her bat, her face calm, but the audience's fury surged, their hearts pounding at this personal attack, Whitney's arrogance a spark in the frost. The scorn grew intense, a coordinated attack on Claire's presence. A tournament staffer, Margaret Voss, approached, her blazer perfectly pressed, her face showing years of upholding rules. At 52, raised in upstate New York, she took pride in keeping things in order. "Miss, the field is for registered players only," she stated, indicating the exit, her voice steady but not unkind. The crowd cheered, their designer cleats sparkling as they bid her farewell from the diamond. A CEO, dressed in athletic wear costing $4,000, commented, probably filming some fake TikTok badass girl video before going home. Laughter erupted, players bumped each other, and a teammate whispered, "She doesn't even look like an athlete." Another remarked, "That t-shirt's a disgrace and she dares step here?" The comments felt harsh, each word contributing to Claire's silence. The audience's anger intensified, feeling sympathy for Claire and frustration at this group's cruel behavior. A palpable disdain emanated from the players as Claire took her position on the diamond, their taunts a deliberate and coordinated attempt to undermine her confidence. A group comprising experienced athletes and sporting $7,000 custom Nike uniforms assembled close to the dugout, their comments forming a sharp and critical sound. "She diminishes this tournament standing," one remarked, flinging a personalized glove towards Claire's well-worn sneakers. "Return to the batting cages, please," another gestured, displaying a sapphire wristband, and added, "Her bat is inadequate. Do you imagine she acquired it at a yard sale?" The grandstand's laughter boomed, staff members exchanging glances, their gold pins catching the light. A former collegiate star shouted, "She's an insult to every swing taken here." The insults felt like a guillotine, each word a blade against Claire's calm composure. Julian's pavilion stood beyond the field, but the Diamond's disapproval felt like an overwhelming burden. The audience's anger grew, their hearts pounding furiously at this planned cruelty, their anger blazing, ready to engulf the elite's arrogance. Whitney Crane delivered another sharp verbal attack, aiming to undermine Claire's confidence in front of the elite. She moved to the pitcher's mound, her Nike jersey catching the light, and fixed a gaze on Claire. "All right then, give it a try," she challenged, her voice strong enough to quiet the surrounding whispers. "If you strike out 3 times, you'll kneel and declare, 'I don't deserve to step onto Rosebridge Park,' in front of every camera present." The grandstands erupted in cheers, their disapproval feeling like an overwhelming wave. Claire responded with a smirk, her hazel eyes unwavering. "What if you hit the first home run of the game?" Whitney raised an eyebrow, her confidence unwavering. "Then what?" Claire's voice was soft but firm. "Then you remove your jersey and walk off the field. Immediately." Whitney laughed, but the crowd's murmurs intensified. "She's finished." The audience's anger erupted, their hearts aching for Claire, infuriated by this public humiliation revealed before the stadium. The players' disappointment became hurtful, their words a harsh chorus. A venture capitalist, dressed in a $5,000 Lululemon outfit, rested against the dugout, her voice sharp and critical. "She's insignificant, likely here seeking sponsorship," she remarked, pointing at Claire's used bat. "Look at those sneakers. Were they retrieved from a discard pile?" The teammates chuckled, their sapphire wristbands catching the light. A semi-pro player exclaimed, "She brings shame to those who allowed her to participate." The laughter felt overwhelming, their arrogance a stark display. Claire adjusted her ponytail, her hazel eyes steady, but the field's disapproval felt heavy. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional betrayal, their fury threatening to undermine the tournament's integrity. Whitney Crane's disapproval became more pronounced, her words a deliberate attempt to undermine Claire before the tournament's elite. She expressed that Claire was not only unsuitable but also embarrassing, her Nike jersey catching the light as she pointed at Claire's joggers. Julian Wren would be deeply upset to witness this. Claire's group of supporters laughed, their personalized bats striking together, glancing at Claire's used bat. "She's a handout, not a player," Whitney remarked, her voice strong enough to quiet any nearby comments. The players responded with encouragement, their disapproval a heavy presence, their whispers circulating, "She's an imposter." Claire's hazel eyes held a quiet intensity, but her smile remained, a defense against the hurt. The pavilion shone beyond the grandstands, yet the field's rejection felt like a heavy burden. The audience's anger swelled, their spirits aching for Claire, upset at this socialite's deceit revealed before the stadium. The staff's involvement worsened the pain, their actions a further betrayal. Wearing a tailored blazer, field coordinator Emily Tate addressed a participant, her tone conveying a sense of superiority. "The practice field is that way," she stated, gesturing towards a side gate, a slight smile visible on her face, reflected by the players nearby. "We do not permit participants like yourself in the main tournament," she continued, prompting laughter from the onlookers. Emily, 28 years old and raised in Connecticut, valued her role in controlling access. The audience's affirmation felt like an overwhelming pressure, their attitude a very public display of judgment. Claire held her bat, her hazel eyes unwavering, but the atmosphere felt oppressive. The crowd's anger surged, their hearts racing in response to this blatant disrespect, their fury directed at Rosebridge's reputation. The field staff's disapproval became obvious, their actions resembling a deliberate humiliation intended to entertain the players. A senior official, Richard Tate, approached Claire close to the first baseline, his blazer immaculate, his voice laced with condescension. "Miss, this diamond is for credentialed athletes only," he stated, loud enough for the crowd to hear. He gestured at her t-shirt, indicating she might be in the wrong event, his smirk reflected by nearby staff. "We don't typically allow attire of this nature at the Spring Invitational," he added, prompting laughter from the players and spectators. The crowd's reaction felt overwhelming, and their demeanor felt dismissive. Claire held her bat, her hazel eyes steady, but the field's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their resentment directed at Rosebridge's reputation. The players' harshness was evident, their words a bitter torrent. A media influencer, wearing a $6,000 Nike outfit, moved closer, her voice sharp and critical. "She's a fraud, likely trying to sneak onto the cameras," she stated, her associates agreeing with nods, their gold earrings catching the light. "The bat is a prop, merely a tactic for disguise," another addition. Shouts erupted. "She's a con artist. The tournament's been duped." The laughter was deafening, each rumor a blow aimed at Claire's heart. Spectators whispered falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. Rumors persisted. "She's after the prize money." Claire touched her ponytail, maintaining a steady gaze, but the crowd's slander felt like a heavy burden. The audience's outrage surged, their feelings aligned with Claire, their anger a powerful force against this damaging falsehood, eager for the truth to expose the elite's deceptions. The spectators' disdain intensified as they spread harmful rumors, their voices a sharp and bitter sound resonating through the grandstands. A sports agent, dressed in a $10,000 Tom Ford suit, moved closer, his voice forceful and pointed. "She's a fake, likely paid to get onto this field," he stated, his associates concurring, their cufflinks gleaming. "Her marriage is a fabrication, simply a tactic to enter the tournament," someone added, yelling, "She's a fraud. Julian has been deceived." The laughter intensified, each rumor felt like a painful blow to Claire's heart. Employees murmured falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. "She's pursuing the sponsorships." Claire touched her bat, her expression unwavering, but the public's defamation felt like an immense burden. The audience's anger exploded, their hearts aligned with Claire, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperately wanting the truth to dismantle the elite's lies. Claire remained silent, without a tear in her eyes, her hands holding her second-hand bat, a relic from her Ohio days, its grip worn from many swings. She stepped to the plate, her canvas sneakers soft on the dirt, her plain t-shirt a stark contrast to the field's opulence. A hush fell over the audience, thousands of eyes anticipating a mistake. Whitney Crane stepped onto the mound, her Nike jersey bright, her pitching honed by Team USA coaches. The first pitch, a sharp crack, zipped past the catcher's head, a line drive narrowly missing the infield. The second pitch, with a resounding wham, struck the edge of the stands, a foul ball that vibrated the bleachers. The third pitch, a powerful boom, cleared the main stadium fence, a white blur against the sky. The grandstand stood still, cameras focused, drones hovering. Whitney's mouth fell open, her hairstyle offering no protection. The audience's emotions changed, their frustration turning to excitement, Claire's understated resolve a glimmer in the cold air. The quiet of the crowd shattered, intakes of breath spreading through the scented atmosphere. A seasoned umpire, Arthur Cole, moved to the front, his worn hat pulled down, his eyes widened. At 65, a longtime figure in the sport, he indicated the fence. "That is the initial home run of the tournament," he announced, his voice shaking. A clean hit over the wall, something no one had accomplished in years. Players stood, gathering around the dugout, their sapphire wristbands catching the light. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Who is she? Where did she learn to hit like that? Why is she dressed like that?" Whitney's Nike jersey seemed to lose some of its brightness, her confidence seeming less sure. The audience's sense of pride grew, their hearts pounding as Claire's swing altered the field's power dynamic. A change fell over the atmosphere as the VIP pavilion moved, the crowd separating like a wave. Julian Wren entered the field, his gray suit impeccably tailored yet subtly styled, his arrival a striking moment. At 38 years old, having grown up in Chicago, he was the creator of Rosebridge Park and held significant shares in the National Baseball League, fundamentally altering the sport. He moved past a speechless Whitney, placed his arm around Claire's waist, kissed her forehead, and offered a smile. "I told you," he stated, his voice unwavering. "One swing is all it takes." The grandstands fell silent, camera flashes illuminated the scene, and drones remained suspended above. Julian addressed Whitney, his gray eyes fixed on hers. "You have disrespected the primary sponsor of this tournament and my wife," he stated. "Effective immediately, you will not be included in any event organized by my group, and those who participated in today's discriminatory actions will be subject to the same consequence." A wave of emotion rippled through the audience, their anger shifting to admiration, as Julian's words exposed the falsehoods that had concealed Claire. The players halted, Whitney Crane's personalized bat falling from her grasp, striking the ground with a sound on the dirt. Julian spoke, his voice breaking the quiet. He emphasized that the tournament was founded on principles of fairness, and pointed out that Claire had provided funding for half of its endowment, yet someone had the audacity to criticize her. The players' cleats appeared to lose their vibrancy, and their faces were drawn with surprise. Emily Tate remained still, her position as a gatekeeper proving to be a demonstration of her failure. Julian indicated Claire with a firm hand. "She doesn't require your wristbands. She embodies the spirit of this game." The audience erupted in cheers, their anger shifting to admiration as Claire's revelation started to redefine the tournament's history. Arthur Cole acknowledged her with a respectful nod, his cap pulled low, as everyone waited for her reply. Claire moved forward, her worn t-shirt a subtle symbol of her strength, and clasped Julian's hand. "I didn't come here to demonstrate anything," she stated, her voice gentle yet firm. "I came to compete." She hesitated, her hazel eyes scanning the stands. "However, since you requested a swing, I delivered one." The stadium erupted, spectators standing, their applause a symphony of awe. Whitney Crane bowed her head, her Nike jersey no shield, and muttered, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wren." Representatives from sports brands and media outlets approached, their endorsement offers extended with trembling hands. Claire smiled, squeezed Julian's hand, and said, "I just came to hit the ball." The audience roared, their hearts pounding as her grace crushed the elite's arrogance. The consequences were swift, a judgment rendered quietly. Whitney Crane was led off the field, her jersey removed amidst a barrage of camera flashes, her media empire now a stark warning. Emily Tate received a reassignment to administrative duties, effectively ending her career of controlling access. Lauren Holt, the semi-pro who had ridiculed Claire's bat, was prohibited from participating in future tournaments, and her sponsorships were terminated. The venture capitalist who had derided Claire's sneakers was disallowed from league events, her power eliminated. Those who had laughed faced disciplinary action, with reduced responsibilities. Individuals who had disseminated rumors concealed their wristbands, losing any semblance of authority. Claire stood next to Julian, her canvas sneakers firm, her used bat a symbol of her integrity. The audience's hearts pounded, their anger shifting to triumph, Claire's victory shining brightly and humbling the field's top players in Rosebridge's revered park. Julian Wren's presence dominated the room, his voice like a sharp command that stilled the atmosphere, decorated with banners. "You dared to challenge Claire Wren," he stated, his gray eyes radiating controlled anger. "Your wristbands, your titles, hold no weight against her truth." He then displayed a tablet showing a series of broken connections, Whitney Crane's media contracts, Emily Tate's event privileges, and players' sponsorship deals, all revoked by Rosebridge's board. Erased from baseball's future, he declared, his gaze fixed on Whitney. "You've lost more than games, you've lost your platforms." The crowd's gasps resonated as a symphony of shock, their empires crumbling under his command. Claire stood beside him, her faded t-shirt glowing, her triumph confirmed by Julian's unrelenting power. The audience roared, their hearts soaring as his global retribution suppressed the elite's arrogance. The downfall of the elite proved to be a striking event, their arrogance broken under Julian's command. Whitney Crane faltered from the mound, her Nike jersey appearing ironic, her reputation serving as a warning to the players. Emily Tate's control over access diminished, her disdain becoming a public embarrassment, with her assistants guiding her towards the service exit. Lauren Holt's endorsements disappeared, her mockery revealed as falsehoods. The sports agent who had spread rumors concealed his cufflinks, his contracts invalidated. The staff who had sneered were terminated, their careers concluded. The media influencer who had laughed faced rejection, her platform diminished. Claire stood tall, her sneakers a subtle symbol of triumph, her hazel eyes resolute. The grandstand's cameras flashed, documenting the elite's downfall, their empires collapsing due to Claire's swing. A wave of emotion swept through the audience, their frustration shifting to a sense of accomplishment, Claire's triumph and Julian's displeasure resonating across Rosebridge's esteemed park, impacting the world's wealthiest individuals. The tournament's established order collapsed under Julian's direction, revealing a deep-seated corruption within its foundation. He addressed the event director, his tone sharp and direct. "Your selection process is a sham," he declared, his gray eyes unwavering. "All regulations that caused my wife distress are null and void, effective immediately." He tapped his phone, and a series of notifications flooded the staff's devices. Agreements terminated, privileges withdrawn, entire teams dissolved. The venture capitalist's approvals were invalidated, her power a remnant of a bygone era. The semi-pro team was disqualified, her professional path halted. The coordinator who had laughed was escorted out, her blazer dark. Claire stood beside Julian, her used bat a silent reminder of her honesty, her victory a bright spot in the tournament's fading glow. The audience's emotions lifted, their frustration changing into celebration. Julian's fury a powerful surge that washed away Rosebridge's pride. The players' downfall became absolute as they addressed the cameras. Their earlier confidence vanished under Julian's direction. They approached the field's perimeter, their sapphire wristbands losing their luster, their voices unsteady. Lauren Holt turned towards the grandstands, her Prada uniform seeming inappropriate. "I was mistaken to criticize Mrs. Wren," she stated, her apology a public admission of fault, resulting in the termination of her endorsements. The media influencer followed, her Nike attire appearing worn, her online presence eliminated. "I regret propagating falsehoods," she whispered, her power diminished. The venture capitalist expressed her regret, her previous statements now meaningless. The employees who had previously mocked them were now last, their professional attire removed, their careers concluded. Claire stood next to Julian, her simple shirt a subtle emblem, her bat representing her authenticity. The crowd erupted, their spirits lifted as the apologies of the powerful resonated, their influence diminishing due to Claire's powerful hits and Julian's unwavering strength. Claire's history remained unknown, not to the players, not to Whitney, and not to the staff. At 18, she would practice swings in vacant lots while coaching children, her diner tips paying for her glove. At 22, she encountered Julian at a charity game, her natural talent captivating him amidst the spectacle. Their marriage, a personal commitment in an Ohio meadow, was founded on affection and mutual aspirations. Whitney's perfume, the staff's blazers, the players' kits, none equaled the significance of the bat Claire possessed. Now she stood on the field, her ponytail a testament to her truth, her silence a furnace that burned through their lies. The tournament paused, but the grandstand's eyes remained on Claire. A league official approached, his voice low with respect. "Mrs. Wren, your swing is legendary," he said. His earlier scorn was a regret. The players retreated, their influence null, their agents scrambling to salvage ties with Rosebridge. The sponsors hovered, their empires trembling in Claire's shadow. She proceeded toward the pavilion, her hazel eyes following Julian's confident smile. The banners lessened in brightness, the spring light disappearing, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals seeking her approval. There was a quiet acknowledgement of defeat for those who had previously scorned her. Claire was called onto the stage, her sneakers making little sound on the platform where she accepted the Sports Fairness Icon Award, its crystal sparkling under the lights. She held Julian's hand, her t-shirt a subtle expression of her integrity. The crowd erupted, their applause a powerful surge as she stepped down, her bat slung over her shoulder. The field grew quiet, the cameras motionless, the elite's empire's dust settling. Julian moved closer to her, his gray eyes gentle. "Ready to go home?" she affirmed, her hazel eyes following his smile. They exited the field, the spring light diminishing, leaving Rosebridge Park forever altered by a single swing. She endured a severe public shaming, occurring directly during the most prominent baseball competition for top players, where each swing featured a $1 million sponsor logo. However, when her bat connected with the ball and her husband's truth emerged onto the field, everyone understood one thing. The authentic champion doesn't require specialized equipment. She simply needs to swing, and the stadium will acknowledge her. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Claire? The moment she arrived on the red carpet, she was dismissed. Her outfit consisted of a simple linen dress, strappy flat sandals, and loose, unstyled hair. She carried a stack of black and white papers in her hand, without a binder or any visible branding. A businesswoman subtly adjusted her Cartier necklace, offered a brief look, and remarked, "Since when do charity galas welcome the locals?" A fashion model turned to her companions and stifled a laugh. She appears to have stepped out of a public library, not a billionaire ball. Rose Avery stood quietly at the VIP check-in. No one inquired about her name. No one examined the invitation she held. To them, she possessed no worth, merely a fleeting amusement in a glittering room, a woman too quiet, too plain, to be taken seriously. However, they were mistaken. The woman they had just humiliated was the actual owner of the entire gala, and the one who held absolute power over the very ecosystem they depended on. The Avery Global Gala stood as the event of the year, taking place in Washington, D.C. At the luxurious Meridian House, a mansion known for its chandeliers and rich history. More than a fundraiser, it represented a strategic competition where prominent figures, senators, CEOs, celebrities, and media moguls, contended for influence. The guest list was carefully selected, with only 200 invitations extended, each serving as a coveted entry into the upper echelons of American wealth and politics. A palpable excitement filled the atmosphere as attendees awaited news of the largest grants, the most esteemed collaborations, or a favorable review from the Avery Foundation, the powerful entity that dictated funding for areas ranging from education to defense contracts. Rose Avery moved through the gathering discreetly, her canvas backpack resting on her shoulder, her proposal for a complimentary community library held securely beneath it. Months were spent developing the plan, filled with a deep commitment to literacy and empowerment for children in underserved neighborhoods. The soft ivory, second-hand linen dress with its square neck moved gently as she walked. Her sandals made a quiet clicking sound on the marble floor. She chose not to wear makeup, it wasn't necessary. Her face was remarkable in its simplicity, with pronounced cheekbones and eyes that reflected a quiet determination. However, to the gala's guests, she was unnoticed or even a target. The lobby presented a scene of elaborate couture gowns and perfectly tailored tuxedos, with diamonds catching the light. A tech billionaire, sporting a velvet blazer, expressed disdain as Rose walked by, asking, "What's she doing here? Distributing flyers for a bake sale?" A congresswoman's aide, enjoying a glass of champagne, whispered to her superior, "Have they begun inviting anyone who walks in off the sidewalk?" She appears as though she instructs yoga at a local community center. A wave of laughter echoed among their group, precise and critical. Rose remained unfazed. She continued walking, her gaze fixed ahead and her pace even, as though the voices around her were merely ambient sound. Approaching the VIP check-in, an employee wearing a tailored black suit gave her a cursory look. "Name?" he inquired, his voice precise, seemingly certain she wasn't authorized. Rose presented her invitation, a simple card featuring a single, raised A. However, before she could respond, a woman adorned in a sequined gown pushed past her. "Pardon me, I am on the guest registry," the woman stated, displaying a wrist covered in diamonds. A staffer allowed her entry, disregarding Rose completely. "Ma'am," he said, addressing her, This area is reserved for priority guests. Please try the general seating in the back. Rose acknowledged this, remaining calm, and moved aside. She offered no objections, spoke no protests. She simply stood there, holding her papers, her face calm but resolute. It was then that a young man wearing a well-cut navy suit, Evan Caldwell, the senator's son who has 1 million followers on social media, noticed her. He retrieved his phone, a smirk playing on his lips, and began recording. "Hey, watch this," he said to his live stream, adjusting the camera to focus on Rose. This woman believes she's attending the Avery Gala wearing a second-hand dress and carrying a pile of printer paper. Seriously, are you planning to present a free library proposal to billionaires? Best of luck, dear. His viewers immediately filled the chat with laughing emojis and mocking remarks. "She's certainly brave," Evan said with a laugh, zooming in on her sandals. "But this is an entirely different level of unrealistic." The audience reacted strongly, their laughter escalating in volume and intensity. A reality TV star, wearing a red dress with a low neckline, joined in the mocking, tossing her hair. "Honey, this isn't a PDA meeting. Go home and change," she said. A hedge fund manager, his cufflinks catching the light, added, "She's probably here to request funding. She should have at least chosen a more appropriate outfit." Rose remained motionless, her eyes following the detailed ceiling trim as if committing it to memory. She offered no reply, avoiding their stares. Her silence wasn't a sign of vulnerability, it was a barrier, unwavering and composed. While Rose waited near the VIP check-in, a cluster of young heiresses in dazzling gowns gathered around her, observing her like predators. One, holding a Chanel purse, glanced at Rose's cloth backpack and scoffed. "Is that her bag? I wouldn't use it to carry my dog's toys." Another approached, her voice laced with malice. "Sweetie, this is the Avery Gala, not a soup kitchen. Why don't you spare us all the discomfort and leave?" Laughter rippled through the room, the sounds bouncing off the marble walls and attracting attention. A photographer positioned nearby quickly captured an image, remarking to his colleague, "This'll go viral. Homeless hippie crashes elite gala." Rose's fingers curled more tightly around her invitation, though she remained silent. Her expression stayed composed, almost otherworldly, as if the comments were water flowing over glass. Despite this, each remark stung, and the visible enjoyment others took in her discomfort felt overwhelming. Within the ballroom, a palpable excitement filled the air. Tables were adorned with crystal stemware, and each centerpiece was a lavish display of orchids and gold leaf. The stage was prominently positioned at the front, enveloped by velvet curtains, where the evening's significant announcement was to be made, the reveal of the gala's primary sponsor, responsible for covering the expenses of the entire event. Many people believed it would be Nathaniel Avery, the solitary billionaire whose corporation Avery Global functioned as an unofficial power, influencing national spending and cultural trends. His lack of public appearances in recent years had only intensified speculation, but tonight, the expectation was that he would appear. Rose secured a seat at the perimeter of the room, close to a utility entrance where servers moved between areas. She placed her papers on the table, carefully smoothing them, and retrieved a small notebook from her backpack to write down some thoughts. The woman beside her, a media heiress wearing a sapphire-encrusted gown, looked over and expressed disbelief. "Are you really writing in a spiral notebook? At the Avery Gala?" Her friend, a pop star with a platinum blonde bob, moved closer. "Perhaps she's recording her feelings about feeling so different." They laughed, not attempting to speak quietly. Rose continued writing, her pen moving smoothly, her face showing intense concentration. The gala began with a string quartet, their music flowing amidst the conversations. The host, a silver-haired TV anchor with a voice like velvet, stepped onto the stage to greet the audience. "Tonight, we celebrate not just philanthropy, but power," he announced, his smile radiant. "The Avery Foundation has influenced our nation's future, education, infrastructure, and policy, and we're here to see who will carry that legacy on." A palpable anticipation filled the room, with many heads turning, trying to locate Nathaniel Avery. Was he observing from a private box at the back? The atmosphere was charged. Throughout the evening, The taunting of Rose continued relentlessly. A cluster of young influencers, positioned near the bar, repeatedly photographed her from a distance, adding captions like "Haha Gala Crasher" and "Who let her in?" Evan Caldwell, continuing his live stream, provided commentary on her every action. She was simply reviewing her documents as if she intended to revolutionize everything. A reminder, you won't receive any funding appearing like that. His online discussion was filled with approving reactions to his humor, encouraging him to continue. A senator's wife, listening nearby, turned to her husband. "It's quite embarrassing, actually. They should increase security measures. People like her diminish the significance of the event." Rose, in the meantime, was listening to the speeches. A technology leader announced a commitment of $5 million for AI research. A congressman pledged $3 million for veterans programs. Each announcement received applause, but Rose's eyes remained focused on her notebook, where she documented observations about literacy gaps in rural schools. When a waiter offered her a glass of champagne, she smiled and requested water instead. "Plant-based diet, huh?" the waiter remarked, half joking. "You're likely the only one here who doesn't eat caviar." Rose chuckled quietly, a first indication of relaxation. "Caviar's overrated," she commented, and returned to her notes. Amidst a pause in the speeches, a well-known lobbyist moved toward Rose's table, his expression difficult to miss. He took her library proposal, examining it as if it were a simple sketch. "Free libraries? For those children," he stated, his voice audible to those at adjacent tables. "Darling, you're misusing everyone's time. Focus on teaching yoga or your current profession." He returned the papers, one page drifting to the floor. As Rose bent to retrieve it, a passing socialite inadvertently crushed it, her stiletto leaving a mark. She chuckled without turning around. The room filled with suppressed laughter, eyes turning to observe Rose's discomfort. She picked up the page, carefully smoothing it, and returned to her seat, her expression composed. However, the atmosphere surrounding her felt oppressive, thick with the audience's amusement at her misfortune. The room's unkindness escalated when Evan and his friends came to her table. The camera continued to record, his smile expansive. "Hey, library lady," he called out, his voice intended to attract attention. "What's your proposal? Free books for kids? That's charming, but this is a different level. You aren't securing a meeting with Nathaniel Avery appearing as if you just emerged from a commune." His companions chuckled, and several adjacent tables echoed the amusement, their laughter rising like a surge. Rose lifted her gaze, her eyes locking with Evan's for the first time. They were bright, unwavering, almost intense. She remained silent, maintaining eye contact until he visibly hesitated, a nervous chuckle escaping him as he addressed his camera. "Tough crowd, huh?" he mumbled, stepping back. The gala proceeded towards its peak. The host reappeared on stage, his demeanor serious, yet vibrant. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the moment you've all anticipated. The Avery Foundation has consistently been a source of influence, and tonight we announce not only the sponsor of this gala, but the new steward of Avery Global itself, the individual who now oversees its extensive resources, its funding channels, and its vision for America's future." The room fell silent, forks clinking against plates forgotten. Everyone leaned forward, anticipating Nathaniel Avery's imposing figure to appear. Instead, the host extended his arm toward the back of the room. "Please welcome the new owner of Avery Global, the woman now responsible for all political, educational, and media funding pipelines, Ms. Rose Avery." A noticeable reaction went through the crowd, with many people turning to look for a prominent figure in a private area. However, Rose rose to her feet, her linen dress reflecting the light, her sandals making almost no sound on the floor. She approached the stage, still holding her papers, and her hair remained unbound. The room was still, with all eyes focused on her, and many people were visibly surprised. Evan's phone shifted a little, his live stream showing his shocked expression. The businesswoman wearing the Cartier necklace sputtered, coughing on her wine. The model who had previously made fun of her appearance, referencing a library look, became motionless, her hand shaking as she held her clutch. Rose entered the spotlight, appearing exactly as she always did. There was no elaborate gown, No sparkling jewels, just Rose. She placed her documents on the podium and surveyed the audience, her eyes pausing on the first row, on Evan, the influencers, and the senator's wife. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried a weight that filled the room. Tonight is not simply about raising money, it is about determining who truly deserves funding. She paused, allowing the words to resonate, because I am capable of writing a $10 million check, or I can erase your name from this entire ecosystem permanently. As Rose approached the podium, the spotlight illuminated the faint creases in her linen dress, a stark contrast to the room's opulence. She placed her papers on the table, and for a brief instant the audience paused, anticipating a misstep. However, she began to speak, her voice firm, cutting through the quiet. I am Nathaniel Avery's daughter. For 7 years I have lived among you, unnoticed, to comprehend the world my father's empire influences. Every dollar you have pursued, every agreement you have finalized, every aspiration you have financed, it has been under my observation. The room reacted, faces losing color as the reality became apparent. Evan's phone vibrated in his hand, his live stream now displaying his own collapse. The businesswoman's Cartier necklace sparkled as she held it, her empire suddenly vulnerable. Rose stood firm, her unassuming nature now a symbol of authority, her silent strength unmistakable. The stillness was absolute. Evan's live stream chat filled with question marks and surprised emojis, his viewers struggling to understand what they just witnessed. The senator's wife squeezed her husband's arm, her face drained of color. The media heiress dropped her fork, the clatter reverberating in the quiet. The crowd's astonishment intensified as Rose's words lingered. She raised her head, her eyes meeting the senator's wife who had previously labeled her a detriment to the event. You believed I was insignificant, she stated, her voice calm yet sharp, but I'm the one who has been endorsing your grants, validating your initiatives, observing each action you've taken. My father established Avery Global, but I am the one who has been managing it, discreetly until this moment. The room felt smaller, her presence dominating every space. The pop star's platinum bob shook as she understood her latest tour was funded by Rose's endorsement. The tech mogul's wife, who had previously belittled her as someone of lesser status, settled back into her chair, her expression showing fear. Rose's unassuming nature was no longer a source of amusement, it demonstrated her power and influence. Rose remained calm, avoiding any display of triumph, and proceeded with, 7 years ago, my father, Nathaniel Avery, presented me with a choice. To truly understand what the world requires, I've lived among you unnoticed and ordinary. I've taught children to read in crumbling schools. I've eaten meals that cost less than your coffee. I've listened to people you'd never notice, and I've built something substantial. She presented her papers, the library proposal. This is the Quiet Power Initiative, a network of free libraries across America, starting with the kids who need them most. I'm funding it myself, $50 million to start, no grants needed. A hush lingered in the air, some murmuring, others frozen in disbelief. Rose's gaze repeatedly scanned the room, unwavering and determined. However, let me state this plainly. This environment, your initiatives, your endeavors, your reputations are reliant on Avery Global. And I determine who remains within it. Those who create, who contribute, who demonstrate foresight, they will prosper. Those who undermine, who deride, who perceive authority as a trivial pursuit. She stopped, her look directed at Evan, then the influencers, then the businesswoman. Your involvement is terminated. The impact of her words felt devastating. Evan's phone continued recording, though his hand trembled. His scholarship from the Avery Foundation, his White House internship, his entire future seemed to vanish before him. The influencers who had photographed her quickly tried to remove their posts, their faces pale. The senator's wife spoke urgently to her husband, who was already calling his chief of staff, attempting to save their funding. Rose did not pause to observe them. Turning back to the audience, her voice lowered, yet remained authoritative. The Quiet Power Initiative goes beyond books. It's about providing individuals with opportunities to advance, to gain recognition, and to be listened to. I have witnessed the impact of investing in those who are often disregarded. And I am here to ensure that continues, beginning tonight. She descended from the stage, her sandals making a gentle sound, and returned to her place. The chamber filled with a combination of surprised applause and anxious whispers. The host, regaining composure, attempted to introduce the following speaker, but the audience was distracted. Everyone's attention was focused on Rose, who remained seated, calmly reviewing her notebook as if the events hadn't occurred. By morning, the consequences arrived quickly and severely. Evan Caldwell's Avery Foundation scholarship was withdrawn, and his internship was terminated via a brief email from the White House. His live stream, intended as a ridicule of Rose, unexpectedly gained widespread attention for negative reasons, and his name is now linked to arrogance and downfall. Those influencers who had shared her photos were barred from Avery-funded events, and their brand partnerships ended abruptly. The businesswoman, adorned with a Cartier necklace, discovered her company's $20 million education grant had been withdrawn and rerouted to Rose's library program. The senator's wife and her husband encountered a harsh truth. Their favored initiatives, ranging from think tanks to campaign funds, were discontinued, diminishing their impact within a few hours. By morning, the lives of the elite were falling apart. The reality television personality who had instructed Rose to depart received an email. Her Avery-sponsored docuseries, Her Pathway to Credibility, was canceled, and her name was removed from the foundation's list. She looked at her phone, her red dress from the gala discarded on the floor, her career seemingly ruined. The hedge fund manager, who had mocked her attire, discovered his firm's $15 million defense contract had been given to a rival company, a brief message from Avery Global mentioning ethical incompatibility. The cufflinks felt like restraints now, his arrogance a tightening grip. Social media was filled with screenshots of their mockery, now accompanied by captions referencing their downfall, a clear case of karma. Viewers watching Evan's archived livestream celebrated as his confident expression transformed into a representation of his self-destruction, his future seemingly undone by the woman he'd previously dismissed as delusional. Rose, in the meantime, had already begun her work. She convened with community leaders in a small D.C. office, her cloth backpack resting on the floor, her proposal now serving as a detailed plan. The Quiet Power Initiative opened its first library in a neglected neighborhood, with plans for 50 more by year's end. She didn't gloat, didn't seek the spotlight, she just worked, her quiet power reshaping the world one step at a time. The influencers who'd tagged Rose with Galacrasher were now absent from the elite circle. Their invitations to Avery-backed events, fashion weeks, charity balls, and premieres vanished, and their follower counts plummeted as brands distanced themselves. A tearful apology video was released, but the damage was already done. Rose's team had initiated the process for excluding her from future funding. The photographer who captured Rose's viral humiliation had his press credentials revoked and was dropped by his agency. His moment of notoriety became his downfall. Across the internet, the public celebrated what they perceived as justice. Memes featuring Rose's serene face with the caption, "Never judge the quiet ones," proliferated on all platforms. Those who had previously mocked her sandals now confronted a changed situation. Rose Avery didn't just win, she redefined the landscape, leaving the established order behind. The gala's elite had dismissed her sandals, her proposals, her aspirations. They perceived her as insignificant. But Rose Avery was far from insignificant. She embodied the future, and she had just reshaped theirs. This is the impact of the overlooked. If this narrative resonated with you, share, comment, and subscribe for more. She endured ridicule, directly at the center of her former best friend's wedding. A plain linen dress, worn ballet flats, her hair partially tied. It was sufficient to make her the evening's object of amusement amid a gathering of elaborate designer gowns and professional makeup artistry. A glass of red wine was spilled onto her dress. A piercing laugh echoed, "Oops, sorry, you're mistaken. This isn't a charitable fundraiser." Eva Quinn remained motionless, holding her invitation, her expression composed. They were unaware of her identity. They perceived only a reserved woman and presumed she was holding onto outdated ways. Even the bride had only extended an invitation to showcase the accomplishments she believed she had acquired. However, their assessment was incorrect. The woman they had just embarrassed was the wife of the man who had recently acquired the very company the bride was boasting about. The Belvoir estate shimmered beneath a late September sky, its expansive lawns and marble terraces reimagined as a setting for Clara Wynn's wedding. Elegant chandeliers descended from silk-draped pergolas, scattering glittering light across tables adorned with gold-rimmed crystal glassware. Orchids overflowed from every available space, their fragrance blending with the cool evening air. Attendees, global influencers, CEOs, and minor royalty, circulated like stars in designer gowns and custom-made tuxedos, their laughter echoing as a harmonious expression of affluence. The event was live-streamed to millions, presented as a celebration of empowered womanhood, with Clara, the self-proclaimed Queen of Ellis, as the focal point. Drones buzzed above, recording all perspectives for a global audience. Eva Quinn appeared on the terrace, her square-neck linen dress flowing gently in the breeze, the light sage fabric draped simply, ending just above her ankles. The sound of her worn ballet flats echoed softly on the stone, and her auburn hair was arranged in a casual knot, with several strands loose around her face. She had no makeup, her skin radiating a healthy glow, and the only jewelry she wore was a simple silver ring on her left hand. She held a cream-colored envelope in her fingers, Clara's invitation, written in elegant but smug script, encouraging her to observe a new chapter. At 36, Eva possessed a striking appearance, her hazel eyes keen with a calm wisdom, her cheekbones catching the light. Her beauty possessed a quiet quality, like a confidence shared with only a few. She stopped near the group's perimeter, her eyes taking in the estate. She'd established Ellis from nothing, a dorm room vision of pure aesthetics, arising from late nights experimenting with compounds, while Clara playfully teased her for her dedicated passion. Eva provided the intellect and the drive, crafting products that transformed an entire sector. However, following her daughter's birth, when postpartum issues confined her to bed, Clara and their close friends acted. Her name had been removed, her work appropriated, and she had been forced out through a boardroom coup, leaving her with only a broken heart and a newborn child. Eva had withdrawn, opting for a peaceful existence, while Clara advanced on the foundation of her stolen achievements. A server in a shimmering gown moved closer, her smile restrained as she assessed Eva's attire. Catering personnel should use the side entrance, she indicated, gesturing toward a gravel path bordered by service vans. Eva's lips lifted slightly, her voice gentle but distinct. "I am a guest, Eva Quinn." The invitation was presented, its wax seal intact. The hostess paused, examining it with a small gadget, then showed a look of concern. "This appears authentic, but," she began, "please wait here." She moved away, speaking quietly into her headset, leaving Eva to feel the attention of those around her. Other attendees began to observe her, their hushed tones disrupting the string quartet's music. A woman dressed in a sapphire gown, with emerald earrings, bent towards her escort. "Is that linen?" she inquired, her voice carrying across the room. Did she arrive from a craft fair? Her friend, Lila Hart, a tech heiress, laughed, her diamond bracelet flashing. It seemed likely she was here for the open bar. A man in a velvet tuxedo, his cufflinks glinting, joined in the laughter. No makeup, a rather daring choice for someone seeking financial gain. Their amusement spread, attracting more attention. Eva remained still, her hands clasped around the invitation, her expression calm. She sensed their stares, as pointed as needles, but they didn't affect her. She had overcome more challenging situations. The memory of hospital rooms, betrayal, and nights spent questioning her ability to rebuild felt distant, just background noise. She advanced towards the main pavilion when Clara Wynn materialized, radiant in a crystal-encrusted gown that glimmered like frost. Her blonde hair was styled in an updo, diamonds catching the light at her throat. She noticed Eva and paused, then offered a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Eva?" Clara's voice was syrupy, audible to the nearby tables. "Oh, you came. Don't worry. You are still welcome to attend this wedding, even if you are no longer the founder of Alyssa." The words had a sharp impact, and the crowd responded with laughter, quickly raising their phones to record the moment. Clara inclined her head, her smile becoming more pronounced. I mean, it has been years, hasn't it? You've moved on. She indicated toward Eva's dress, her tone laced with what seemed like pity. Eva's gaze met Clara's, remaining calm and resolute, but she did not speak. Eva's silence appeared to disconcert Clara, who laughed again, louder this time. Please, let's all be considerate, she said, gesturing with her hand. Eva is someone I've known for a long time. Let her appreciate the scenery. She moved away, her dress trailing on the floor as attendees murmured, their voices a quiet disapproval. An old acquaintance? Lila Hartskoft. More accurately, a relic of the past. The master of ceremonies, a polished man called Trevor Kane with a sharp smile, stepped onto the platform, his microphone shining. Please take your seats, he announced, his gaze sweeping across the assembly. He noticed Eva and hesitated, his smile growing. He indicated a designated area for certain attendees, gesturing toward a table close to the catering staff, situated behind a service station filled with trays. Right there, miss. That's ideal for you. Laughter rippled through the room, a harsh sound that bounced off the marble. A waiter, seemingly believing Eva was an employee, presented her with a tray of champagne flutes. Hurry up. They're waiting, he said, then appeared confused when she politely refused, her voice steady. I'm not serving tonight. Eva was seated at her corner table when a catering manager in a crisp suit approached, his face flushed with irritation. You are in the incorrect location, he stated, his voice loud enough for nearby guests to turn. Staff do not sit with guests. Please move. He grasped her arm, pulling her up as her chair scraped the marble, drawing stares. Don't feign ignorance, he hissed, misinterpreting her silence as resistance. Guests applauded, one person shouting, "Send her to wash dishes." A woman tossed a napkin at her, laughing, "Start cleaning. Honey." A drone overhead focused on her misstep, sharing it with millions. Eva regained her balance, her invitation shifting a little, but her expression showed no fear, only a calm determination that contrasted with their excitement. Eva proceeded to the table, her movements deliberate, and took a seat, maintaining a straight posture, the invitation still in her grasp. The other attendees at the table, mostly secondary guests and a few hesitant relatives, didn't meet her eyes, their unease obvious. Close by, a cluster of influencers in bright dresses recorded themselves, their voices carrying. She's giving thrift store vibes, one commented, focusing the camera on Eva's flats. Does she realize this is being streamed to millions? Another remarked, her lips gleaming. Bet she's here to request a position with Clara. Their audience responded enthusiastically, with comments appearing rapidly. Loser alert. Why is she even here? As Eva stood close to the pavilion, a group of attendees approached, their eyes reflecting hostility. A woman in a pearl-encrusted gown, her lipstick sharp as her tongue, moved forward. Why is she present here? She expressed disdain, her voice audible to everyone. Clara is too compassionate, allowing those in need to enter. Her escort, a man with a gold watch, threw a shrimp from his plate at Eva's feet, smiling. Retrieve, dear. The assembly erupted, phones recording as others participated, scattering morsels, murmuring, "She is insignificant now." A young influencer declared, "Let's make her infamous for being pitiable," inciting further laughter. Eva's hands were steady as she held her invitation, her gaze fixed forward, yet the atmosphere grew heavy with their malice, a display fueled by her silence. Clara's inner circle, the women who'd assisted her in acquiring a license, gathered near the bridal platform, their laughter as cutting as shards of glass. Margot Rees, a former chemist who had taken Eva's formulas, inclined her head towards Sloane Carter, the marketing expert who had revised Eva's narrative. Look at her, Margot said, her ruby necklace catching the light, seated with the staff, utterly pathetic. Sloane smiled, enjoying her martini. Clara's talent was intriguing her. It seemed to suggest she wouldn't disapprove. They touched glasses, their attention on Eva, who remained impassive, her eyes focused on the stage where Clara was about to speak. The audience's antagonism became more pronounced, encouraged by champagne and Clara's challenge. A gentleman in a bow tie, his face red, bent toward Eva's table, his voice unsteady. "Hey, servant, get me a drink," his companions shouted, one throwing an olive from his martini, observing it travel across her lap. A muffled exclamation drew laughter. A woman wearing a feathered headpiece dismissed Eva with a disdainful gesture, her voice laced with mockery. "You're disrupting the decor, dear. Perhaps you're better suited for the kitchen." Cameras quickly recorded the olive stain, the discarded napkin, and the mark on her dress resulting from the incident. Eva's grip tightened on her invitation, yet her expression remained calm, displaying a quiet resolve that made their comments appear frantic. Trevor Kane returned to the microphone, his smile now more pronounced. "Before our bride speaks, let's acknowledge our unexpected guests." He gestured toward Eva, the spotlight shifting to her table, momentarily obscuring her. "Who invited the vintage shop? Huh?" The crowd responded with enthusiastic applause. Trevor Kane approached the microphone, his eyes twinkling as he focused on Eva again. "Folks, we have a remarkable story here," he announced, the spotlight highlighting her. "Miss Thrift Shop believes she's a guest, but let's be honest. She's here for the refreshments." The audience roared, their phones raised, recording as he spoke on, suggesting, "She's probably prepared a sad tale. Let's hear it, Eva, and have a cry with us." A spectator tossed a bread roll, striking her shoulder, while another yelled, "Give her a gift bag and remove her." The live broadcast intensified, the comment section filled with harsh remarks. "Complete failure. Clara dominates." Eva wiped away the crumbs, her face calm, her quietness a barrier against their anger. A drone approached, its camera focused on her, displaying her soiled dress to the public. Online comments exploded, a wave of dismay. Calls for her removal echoed. Eva remained composed, the bright stage lights illuminating her face, but her gaze didn't falter, fixed on Clara, who smiled from the stage, clearly enjoying the attention. Clara approached the microphone, her voice rich and controlled. "Thank you all for celebrating with me," she began, her gown shimmering under the lights. "This wedding isn't just about love, it's about my journey. The list was my vision, my hard work, my victory. I created it from the ground up, and tonight, I am here as evidence that a woman can achieve everything she desires." The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, the sound reverberating as Clara's gaze briefly met Eva's, a spark of triumph visible in her eyes. "Some individuals begin with great momentum but eventually diminish," she continued, her words deliberately sharp. Clara interrupted her address, her eyes fixed on Eva with a triumphant expression. "Oh, let's remember where we came from," she said, her voice laced with insincere warmth. "Eva, you instructed me significantly about yielding." The crowd's applause was sharp and intense as Clara indicated Eva's table, the spotlight shifting to emphasize her stained dress. "Look at her, still so unassuming," Clara remarked, eliciting surprised reactions and laughter. A guest called out, "Back to the basement, Eva." As others recorded with their phones, Clara moved closer to the microphone and added, "Some people simply aren't suited for the spotlight." Eva remained composed, her hazel eyes unwavering, a quiet strength setting her apart from their animosity. She stated, "Others, like me, ascend and continue ascending." The applause grew, but Eva's gaze remained steady, her silence more impactful than Clara's words. Her voice continued, even as Clara spoke. A woman wearing a gold dress, her influencer status evident in her carefully posed posture, whispered to her companion, gesturing towards Eva. "She's probably homeless now," she murmured, nodding. Clara added that she had failed after losing Elise. Her companion, a hedge fund employee named Derek, laughed, the sound audible to Eva's table. "Bet she's here to get a free meal," he said. He inadvertently nudged his fork in her direction, causing it to fall with a clatter at her feet. "Pick it up, darling," he said, which elicited laughter. The drone recorded everything, and online platforms quickly amplified Eva's perceived embarrassment, with memes already circulating. Alyssa's forgotten founder. Eva dismissed the fork with her foot, her actions purposeful, her composure serving as a defense against the public's reaction. Following this, a deep vibration filled the air, resembling thunder across the estate. Attention shifted, Drinks halted in midair as a helicopter descended, its blades cutting through the evening light. It touched down on a lawn nearby, scattering petals and dust, its polished, black exterior a striking contrast to the wedding's soft colors. The assembled guests murmured, cameras adjusting to record it, live stream viewership surging to millions. A man emerged, his tuxedo immaculate, his demeanor commanding the attention of everyone present. Asher Dorian, the famously private billionaire and renowned master of global mergers, a name spoken with a mix of apprehension and admiration. His dark hair was swept back, his gray eyes scanning the crowd with a predator's focus. He moved past the guests without a word, their gasps trailing him like shadows. Asher's steps were deliberate, crossing the terrace in long strides, ignoring the bridal dais, Clara's speech, the entire spectacle. His eyes found Eva and the world seemed to pause. She stood, her stained dress catching the chandelier light, and she took his hand, her touch steady, familiar. A hush fell over the audience, their amusement abruptly silenced. Clara's microphone malfunctioned, her speech fading, and her complexion lost color beneath her veil. Trevor Kane's smile disappeared, his hands awkwardly adjusting the microphone stand. The drone focused, showing Asher's hand clasped with Eva's, her silver ring catching the light like a promise. Asher then turned to Trevor, his voice calm but powerful, breaking the stillness. Please accept my apologies for this interruption. I have a few important announcements regarding the company the bride has been so enthusiastically promoting. He paused, allowing the anticipation to linger, his gaze sweeping the assembled group. A complete roster had been obtained this morning. All shares, every patent, every formula, and the new legal representative. He looked at Eva, his eyes softening briefly. My wife. Gasps spread through the estate, phones clattered, and live streams erupted with commentary. What? Eva's back? Eva moved forward, her footsteps echoing on the marble, and ascended the stage. Her stained dress, a symbol of their cruelty. Clara recoiled, her gown snagging on the microphone stand, her diamonds appearing lackluster beside Eva's serene glow. Eva grasped the microphone, her voice steady and controlled, reminiscent of a deep flowing river. Thank you, Clara, for supporting my brand for the last few years. I didn't come here to disrupt your wedding. I came to reclaim what had been wrongfully taken. The audience fell silent, their previous disapproval now overshadowed by astonishment. Julian Holt, Clara's fiancé and heir to a shipping dynasty, rose from the head table, his expression strained with anger. He moved toward Clara, speaking in a quiet but clear voice that reached the nearby guests. You lied, he stated, his words precise about everything. He removed the engagement ring from her finger, the emerald flashing as he dropped it to the floor. We are finished. Clara's reality shattered as Eva's words lingered, her diamond veil shifting as she stumbled away. Guests averted their gazes, their hushed voices cutting through the air. Did she take everything? Eva truly is remarkable. Her phone vibrated with urgent messages, Alyssa's removal from the board and the departure of sponsors. The live stream, previously her platform, exposed her, displaying a frozen image with mascara running. Someone who had applauded Eva's speech now questioned her integrity, whispering, fraud. Clara attempted to offer a statement, but her microphone malfunctioned, the resulting quiet intensely noticeable. The realm she had constructed, founded upon Eva's talent, crumbled within moments, her reputation becoming a cautionary tale, her former prestige now reduced to dust before Eva. He walked off the stage, past the stunned crowd, and disappeared into the estate, leaving Clara alone under the spotlight. Clara's composure faltered, her hands trembling as she gripped the microphone. This isn't true, she exclaimed, her voice high-pitched, but the crowd didn't react. Phones vibrated, headlines developing. Alyssa founder reclaims throne at wedding scandal. The live stream increased to 10 million viewers with comments pouring in. Clara's a fraud. Eva's iconic. Margot and Sloane, Clara's collaborators, attempted to leave, but drones tracked them, displaying their faces on screens globally. Their careers, established upon Eva's misappropriated work, disintegrated as it happened, with sponsors withdrawing and their names becoming prominent for negative attention. Eva exited the stage, Asher beside her, their hands still connected. She did not look at Clara, nor did she revel in the disorder. Her lack of comment conveyed a message, her reality more impactful than any insult. The audience cleared a path. The murmurs had shifted to expressions of wonder, sorrow, and embarrassment. Trevor Kane, his usual confident hosting demeanor absent, offered a quiet apology, but Eva remained silent. She had sought justice, and she achieved it without needing to speak. Before the evening concluded, Julian's family, the Holts, released a formal declaration, severing all connections with Clara and her business endeavors. Her influence, her contracts, her public image, and her carefully constructed narrative crumbled swiftly. Online platforms reacted harshly, featuring memes of her surprised expression with the caption, "Thief Bride." The wedding guests who had previously mocked Eva now confronted their own consequences. Lila Hart's startup experienced a loss of funding, Derek's hedge fund encountered audits, their identities linked to Clara's fraud. The public followed intently as Eva's resolute actions altered the narrative. By morning, the wedding's guest list was a casualty of ruined reputations. Lila Hart's startup ceased operations, investors pointing to damaging public perception following her viral comments. Derek's hedge fund faced lawsuits, his clients bailing as Derek downtrended. Margot and Sloan, Clara's allies, lost their board seats, their names removed from Alyssa's records. The influencer in gold, her video ridiculing Eva now notorious, witnessed her transactions disappear, followers shifting with fake glam. Attendees who'd chuckled retreated, their apologies disregarded, and their brands exiled by Asher's network. Eva's veracity, understated yet unwavering, consumed their realities, her poise the instrument delivering the most profound damage. Asher and Eva halted at the terrace's edge, the helicopter awaiting them beyond the lawn. He regarded her, speaking softly. "You weren't obligated to do this." She smiled, her hazel eyes reflecting the starlight. "I chose to. It was for me." She briefly looked back at the estate, observing Clara's silhouette, now solitary under the chandeliers, and then turned away, her movements graceful, her ring sparkling. They proceeded toward the helicopter, the night belonging to them, the world irrevocably altered. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more impactful stories like this one.